Nebula everyone, Starseeker Williams here. You may have heard of us referring in the past to a D&D campaign we've been running that we've jokingly been calling Pain Pecco, but that name seems to have stuck. We've recorded quite a few sessions of it, but the first session was so bad in terms of audio that I'm going to have to recap it entirely, and it has taken me quite a while to get to this point. We had a custom inspiration rule that we've still been using, where everyone started with one inspiration, and it can be used to get abilities you would not normally have access to, such as a Warlock of the Old One's Awakened Mind feature, as one example, or to gain resistance to an instance of damage. And realistically, it is more similar to a plot point than actual inspiration, but I've been calling it inspiration for ease. It is also likely to be returned at the end of the session. I've been doing that to keep the players using it, because I find that more interesting. The world that they have been playing in is the world of Asconor. It was named by elves who are more or less extinct, wiped out by a plague a few centuries ago. Asconor in Elvish means Bone Land. The other races have grown and have begun to study the Elven ruins to try to learn about magic. Tieflings have been enslaved by the Dragonborn for many hundreds of years, and for the most part, magic is illegal. The players started in Asconor on the continent of Uda, in the southern part of the continent where lies the Voroparka, also known as the Ever-Dry, a large desert. Within that desert lies the human kingdom of Nostrali. And within Nostrali lies the city of Tavul, which was built around an oasis that refills from groundwater. Tavul is not the capital of Nostrali, but yet is about the same size. Underneath Tavul lies the Ruby Bastille, its prison, and that is where our story began. The players described their characters in this way. Luna's character was Zima, and she was described as a very, very small person, a small female. Her skin is a kind of pale blue, her eyes are blue as well, but they are more like an ice blue. Her clothes are those of the desert with vibrances of oranges and yellows. She also has a bag with all of her possessions sitting in front of her. The child has a headdress that covers the majority of her head. She has a face mask that she can probably pull up, but is currently pulled down. And she has not spoken up to this time. She was given hot stew and bread by the guards, better food than any other prisoner received. Kylio's character was Ero. I could not hear very well in the recording, but Ero is a 5-foot-tall, human female-looking robot with bright purple hair and a crop top. Oyume was playing Crab, also known as Wandering Crab or Stepping Crab, who is just an obese coconut crab, and to quote him directly, M. Crab. I do not remember the name of the character Kingsman was playing, as he has since switched characters, but he described them as someone who wears a silk robe over what looks like hide armor. They're kind of a standard human with tan skin and black hair and brown eyes that only appear to be about in their early 20s, but seem as if they've seen much more than they should have. And they sit there meditating. Honrad's character was Kalrana, a young Yanti woman about 5'6", with tan skin, black hair, and yellow eyes. She wears very light red silk over her chest and legs, along with some kind of slightly transparent skirt and sandals on her feet. Samael's character is Azzy, who is a teenage fire genasi woman with skin made of bronze. Blue flames his hair, horns that point backwards, solid blue eyes, wearing a jacket, shirt, and trousers. Now we come to the actual recap And this is where it's going to be the most difficult for me. The players were all arrested for various reasons. Some of them fairly tame, some of them slightly less so. Most of them were fairly tame. The players all met in the Ruby Bastille, and shortly thereafter, after the session began, they were freed by a mysterious benefactor paying their bails, with the only request being that they meet said benefactor. After a little bit of a misunderstanding between Kingsman's character and Zimma, which was quickly smoothed out, they went to meet with the benefactor, who was a well-to-do dwarf from the city. One of very few dwarves here. He asked for their help, thought they looked capable, and that's why he paid their bails. He ended up leading them to his manor, and gave them a quest to find out if someone was trying to recreate what happened to the elves, as that was something that he was afraid of at the moment. There was a high elven city not far to the north, a few weeks' travel, and after much debating, the party decided that it would be best if they rode horses north to the elven city. And so they did. It was also discovered that the characters cannot speak well to Zimma, as she does not speak Common, and she speaks a different dialect of Elvish than some of the characters do. The crab, when they were still at the manor, asked the dwarf for a hat and was given one, a very large hat for a very large crab. And it was discovered that Zimma knows a few common words: yes, no, and jail. As they were traveling, they noticed a sandstorm on the horizon and made temporary shelter behind a dune to wait it out. Shortly after, they encountered a river, and Crab used it to gather food as the party decided to find a way across. It took them a while, but eventually they found a fording point and managed to cross this deep, wide river. But as they were doing that, as he started to be drawn to the water, many members of the party tried to stop her from entering due to her flaming hair. Some even tried to stop with magical means, but the magical means seemed to backfire on them, and ended up with Kalrana joining Azi walking into the river. When Zimma crossed the river, and everyone else was concerned with Kalrana and Azi, Zimma very quickly washed her hair so that people wouldn't see. Kalrana accidentally left her backpack on the other side of the river, but Arrow went to go retrieve it. A few days later, about a week, they arrived at the High Elven City, which appeared to have the center block or so excavated. They saw a shred of cloth between two buildings and found it to be connected to a corpse from no more than a week prior. A Dragonborn's corpse specifically. Down in the excavation, they saw a ruined obelisk at the bottom of the hole, and decided to try to go down and see what it was about. Some of the party tried to touch the obelisk upon arriving, but Zimma stopped them, as she was afraid of the obelisk. Upon examining it, she found that it likely would summon some sort of beast. The others who were there noticed footprints around the obelisk that didn't belong to them, and upon going to the other side of the obelisk, found a one-armed tiefling with smoke pouring out of her hands towards the obelisk. She was wearing black-lensed goggles and fairly simple, ragged clothing. They tried to talk to the tiefling, or to get her to react by attacking, but she never reacted. occasionally giving a very short response. Her left arm was missing, and her horns appeared to be either cut or broken off. When pressed, she said she was doing what needed to be done, revenge for hundreds of years of oppression. They started to attack her, but she wouldn't fight back. They grappled her while attempting to subdue. One of them tried to cut her other arm off to stop her from activating the obelisk, but realized that the smoke curled around her arm seemed to be protecting it from physical damage. Zima discovered, in the meantime, that there was an enchantment magic woven into the obelisk, and that the tiefling might be magically compelled. The tiefling wanted the power to save her people from the Dragonborn and from their slavery. She didn't know if the obelisk would be entirely safe for her people, but did not see another option. Zima pled with the tiefling, saying that the obelisk is bad, but the tiefling believed there was no other way because no one cared enough about her people, and none of her people cared enough. Zima kept trying to convince her to not activate the obelisk, and after a while, the tiefling revealed that she physically couldn't stop. Zima, knowing a bit about magic, thought it might help if they were to remove the tiefling from the area, as the tiefling's left leg started smoking like the right arm. Zima frantically tried to communicate this idea with the party and eventually managed to get the idea across. Crab and Azzy started carrying the tiefling away, but the further they got, they seemed to take more and more necrotic damage, eventually knocking Crab unconscious. Eventually, they did manage to get both the party and the tiefling outside the city. And as they did, the smoke receded from the tiefling's arm and leg, leaving many twisted scars in their place. Azzy ended up dragging the tiefling away from the party and casted Thunderwave on her, nearly killing her. She very nearly died before Ero stabilized her, after she had failed 2 death saving throws, and it was then that the session ended. I apologize for the fairly short, brief recap, but as I said before, the audio was so bad due to our choice of recording that we really could not get all the good bits. So the future sessions will be slightly edited by me, editing out things that people don't want others to know they said, or things like that. But I do apologize for the brevity of this recap, but it had to be done. And look for the next sections on my channel. They will be posted there eventually once I can get them edited. It does take a while to edit multiple hours of content, especially when you don't have a multiple hour block to do it in. But saving the universe, one session at a time. Starseeker Williams, out.